Let's talk about the echo chamber in the room. Booktok, Bookstagram, and Booktube. It's starting to feel a little like Groundhog Day, and I don't mean that in a charming way. Reading has had somewhat of a renaissance recently thanks to social media platforms, particularly thanks to Booktok. According to Kira Goerings from Booktok to Bookshelf, platforms like TikTok have revived an interest in reading, and as somewhat of a reader myself, shouldn't I love that? Well, the answer is complicated. On the one hand, it's beautifully anti-elitist. We are no longer at the mercy of publishing houses and prestigious critics telling us what is and isn't worth reading. It takes a formally curated practice and turns it into a communal one. Let's take the Song of Achilles, for example. Though the book made almost no traction in the year it was released, through the Booktok algorithm, it became an overnight sensation. Readers wept, fans screamed, and suddenly a decade-old book had a new life, which we love for her. But here's the thing. If it's so diverse and community-driven, why is everyone recommending the same 12 books? You know the ones I'm talking about. It's the secret histories of the world, Emily Henry's entire bibliography, legends and lattes. This is where the idea of an echo chamber creeps in. Oxford defines an echo chamber as an environment in which a person encounters only beliefs or opinions that coincide with their own, so that their existing views are reinforced and alternative ideas are not considered. Elizabeth Rozaki writes that being active on Booktok as an author helps you to connect with your readers, therefore increasing visibility and increasing sales. Amazing. But with increased visibility comes increased repetition. The same books get shown, sold, reviewed, and then shown again. The algorithm favors familiarity, and before long, readers do too. The more a book is talked about, the more it is seen. The more it is seen, the more it is bought, and it creates this self-perpetuating cycle. And what results is that we hear the same opinions being repeated over and over again, not necessarily because they're better than other opinions, but because they're louder. Some academics argue that echo chambers aren't necessarily a bad thing. Let's take the climate crisis, for example. The more people research and talk about the climate crisis, the easier it is to dispel misinformation about the topic. In other words, the more something is researched, the easier it is to find resources that confirm or deny a belief or a stream of thought. Jennifer Lackey argues that echo chambers are actually neutral in structure, but become positively or negatively charged because of the content within that structure, leaving you with affirmer or denier echo chambers. So things that either confirm your beliefs or things that go against your beliefs. But the thing with an echo chamber is that when you are surrounded with ideas that already confirm and amplify what you believe, it becomes very difficult to look outside of those pockets. Similarly, the algorithm has this really nifty way of figuring out what you like and then showing you more of that content, meaning that it's very difficult to then diversify your streams of information. So while Booktok can be an affirming echo chamber, it does also make it very difficult to branch outside of it. As a reader, I get it. Wanting to read something that's popular is natural, especially if you're new to reading. Because as a new reader, why would you take the gamble and risk something when there are a million people telling you how good A Court of Thorns and Roses is, for example? But here's the disconnect. I keep seeing vastly different groups of people, from your horror girlies to your romantasy stans, to your high fantasy snobs and your cozy mystery girlies, all recommend the same book, and suddenly the very secret society of irregular witches becomes a must-read across all genres. And while I understand why people like this book, it wasn't really for me personally. So while the hype around this book let me down specifically, I do understand why it is so important or why it is so fun being part of an active conversation. Because when somebody else online talks about the book, I get to say, hey, I read that too, even if I didn't like it. It allows me to be part of an active discussion, and that has its merits. It is validating, it is comforting, and in a weird way, it makes you feel kind of seen. Let me be very clear. Reading popular books isn't a bad thing. They're popular for a reason, and only reading obscure books doesn't make you a better reader. All I'm saying is I think we should push back against the algorithm a little, and that reading and curiosity shouldn't stop at the what's trending table. Reading widely across genres, authors, cultures, and eras sharpens your critical thinking. It expands your empathy, it sparks creativity, and reminds you that there are just so many different ways to tell the story. Not everything that sounds good and looks good is going to feel good while you're reading it, and that's okay. And I know that we have to be very selective about what we read because there are only so many books that you can read in one lifetime. But that's exactly why I think being picky about what you read is so important. Personally, I like to give a book 50 to 100 pages, and if I am not invested in your story by then, I put the book down and I read something else. Seriously, shout out to Ariel Bissett who said it perfectly. She said that sometimes her friends will ask her if she thinks they'll like a book, and she's just like, read the first page, because blurbs don't exist in a vacuum. So while a book may have everything that you love, themes, character development, plot, devices, it is so important to know what kind of writing style that you're stepping into, because not every writing style is for you. Even if you're shopping online via Google or Kindle, you can usually read a sample of the book, and this will give you a really good idea of whether or not the writing style gels with you, which is vastly more information than you could ever get from somebody reviewing a book online. I think sometimes we should slow down when looking for books. I think it is so important to give yourself the time to actually consider all your options. So when you are book shopping, for instance, I like book shopping either alone or with John, who understands that I could spend a good couple of hours in a bookshop, because it gives you time to indulge your curiosity. It gives you time to redirect and divert if you picked something up that looked cool but doesn't actually read as well as you thought it would. And it's tempting. I get it. Bookstores are making it so much easier to pick up popular books because they have entire displays dedicated to Booktok recommends. This creates kind of a no-brainer decision-making process, because why spend hours trying to find something that appeals to you when you have this whole table of books that have essentially been peer-reviewed? However, in a bookstore full of books, I think it is key to remember that one table is not a fair representation of everything that's on the market. Honestly, one of the best ways to shake things up a little bit is to step outside of the Western canon, because different cultures view different themes very differently, things such as time and familial responsibility and relationships. Reading translated fiction will introduce you to different tonal shifts, to different pacing options, to different formats, and it just puts you into a whole new literary rhythm. At the end of the day, Booktok isn't a villain. It is just a loud and very enthusiastic party. And sometimes being part of the hype is exactly what you need. Sometimes it validates your experience as a reader. But other times, I like to look for a quieter corner, something with stranger stories, little nooks of voices that I've never interacted with before. So today, I would personally like to challenge you to pick up a book that nobody's talking about. It doesn't have to be every book, just once in a while. And if you don't know where to start, here are some books that I have read recently that have under 1,000 reviews on Goodreads. Have you picked up an obscure book recently and enjoyed it? If so, please let me know in the comments. If you would like an entire video dedicated to books that I haven't seen very many people talking about, let me know as well. I am happy to do that. But until then, happy reading. I'll see you next time.